Hey, good morning, my Londonites. How y'all doing today? So we're going to be responding to a video by Endymion, the collective, and the individual. Oh boy, just by the title, I can see he's going to be spewing some nonsense today. So let's see what kind of nonsense he's going to spew today. Roll the intro.
So often I hear that capitalism is based on freedom of the individual, whereas socialism and communism denies the individual for the sake of the collective.
Look at capitalism. Capitalism is an economic and political system in which a country's trade and industry are controlled by private owners for profit rather than by the state. I'm on board with capitalism because it lets you keep the profits that you make within your business and not having the state just yank money out of your business for taxes and stuff. Just basically so socialists and communists can reap the benefits of you working hard and then not doing anything at all. That's basically why I'm on board with capitalism. It's because individuals decide whether that business is afloat or not. And it's like, you better make a good product or else word's going to get around and say, oh, no, they're not making a good product, dude. um, I don't think we should fund that business. You know what I'm saying? And your business goes under, no matter how much profit you have. You know what I'm saying? Whereas socialism and communism, socialism is like communism, but with a little authoritarianism sprinkled in. Socialism is stamping their authority even more to go get money from the individual to bring to people that don't want to do anything or not contribute to society at all. Communism is basically the same thing. They just wait to get money from the state from the individual that's actually working hard for their money, and they don't have to contribute anything to society. That's why I'm not on board with socialism or communism, essentially. Capitalism, I'm on board with because it's controlled by private owners for their profit and like their own thing so that they can keep their money that they made in their business. They don't have to worry about the state coming to yank money out of their business every single time for like a business tax or something. You know what I'm saying? So I'm on board with capitalism because it does not let the state be involved whatsoever. Whereas socialism and communism is all state, and the state is involved in business, whatever. Like it's all involved in your lives. You know what I'm saying? Whereas capitalism is where the state is not involved at all. So I'd rather be on board with capitalism than socialism or communism.
Individualism is typically attractive to anarchists, ANCAPs, anarcho-socialists, and libertarians as they believe that the only way to liberate society as a whole is to liberate the individual, even at the cost of the collective.
Collectivism. Collectivism, the practice or principle of giving a group priority over each individual in it. The theory or practice of ownership of land means production by people or the state. Collectivism is just basically this big old hive mind, essentially. It cares about like the big old group rather than the individual. They don't care about the individuals in it, they just care that there's a group there. They want to give a group priority over the individuals that are in the group, essentially. Collectivism is nothing but a hive mind. They all basically think the same thing, and they want the production by people or the state. You see where it says or the state, you know what I mean? It should be production by the people, and that's it. The state should not be involved within production whatsoever, and they should be prioritizing individuals rather than just the whole group. Is like, rather than you know saying, who cares? Who cares about the individual? You know what I'm saying? Who cares? What's your name? I don't know your name. What's your name? I don't know your name. You see how that works? It's just like a hive mind that doesn't seek to liberate the individual or give like the individual any like freedom or ideas to come up with production like ideas like or anything like that. It doesn't do that. Collectivism is just like you just sit in a group. Like one of those therapy sessions. You just sit in a group rather than they care about you. They just care about like getting you cured or something like that. They don't care about like you as an individual. They just care about you like getting cured. They're like, whatever. That's collectivism, essentially. They don't care about you as an individual, what kind of ideas, what kind of things you have like to contribute to society. They just want you to be there. Just, they don't care who you are or what you do. So I'd rather be on board with like individualism, where like it gives the freedom to the individual to contribute to society on their own means and their own terms. Whereas collectivism, Did you just sit there like stiff as a board in a group rather than not care about you? Say, what's your name? What's your name? Who cares? You know what I'm saying? That's collectivism. They just don't care about you as an individual and like about your individual freedoms or like your ideas or like you want to contribute to society. So I'm not on board with collectivism whatsoever. I'm not on board with that.
However, I don't think the individual and collective distinction makes much sense. Our brains seem to have this difficulty understanding large numbers. For example, moral thought experiments often provide us with contradicting answers when dealing with different numbers. If we have a choice between releasing a chemical which will save 1 billion and kill 1 million, we often feel that we ought to save the billion. Yet the same logic would tell us to murder one person for organ harvesting, and we would typically feel bad for that one person being killed, yet not so when dealing with large numbers. This is because our brains are better at humanizing the small numbers. This is the same logic that exists within individuals.
Individualism, the habit or principle of being independent and self-reliant. A social theory favoring freedom of action or for individuals over the collective or state control. So you see how he's trying to spin like individualism as like, oh, if you're like an individual and you practice individualism, you're not gonna care whether they release a chemical that kills 1,000 people or whether organ harvesting is going on or something like that. You see how he's wording that content? He's trying to spin it to say, yeah, individualism doesn't care nothing about that, man. They wouldn't care if they release chemicals about the sky or people getting killed in front of them. They don't care. They just want to pursue their own self interest. And they don't care. Come join the collective. We care about you as individuals. We're gonna care whether like chemicals get released in the sky or like organ harvesting is happening right in front of us. We're gonna care about you. You see the way he's trying to twist that and wear that around. I hate that kind of like manipulation where he's trying to like twist a certain thing around to make it seem like it's bad when it actually isn't. Individualism is being independent and self-reliant, whereas collectivism is just like a hive mind or a group that controls your thoughts, your freedoms, everything. Whereas individualism gives you individual freedom to contribute to society and being independent and self-reliant. You can see why he's trying to twist it in this way because individualism is being independent. Anything's if you're independent, you're not gonna care about people if they're like dying in front of you or if organ harvesting is happening. You're not gonna care as an individual. And you're an individual. You practice individualism. Why should you care about that? You see, that's the way he's trying to twist that around. I hate that kind of disingenuous thing where he's trying to twist that around to make it seem better. To say, come join the collectivism. Come join, like a cult or something like that. I think of collectivism nothing more than a cult and a hive mind where they control your thoughts to make you think the same thing that they do, rather than you being an individual and saying, "Hey, this doesn't seem right. Let me think my own things. Let me join individualism." You know what I'm saying? You see, he's trying to spin it around to make sure, like, make his group look good and like make individualism look bad. I hate that kind of manipulation. To be honest, bad on you, sir, for you trying to use that kind of manipulation towards your audience.
As if you think about what a collective is, it's merely a collection of individuals in a category called the collective. And this is the first problem with reducing everything to the individual. It only makes sense in a vacuum. Something like playing loud music or shooting a gun should be allowed. However, if we add the context of this person living in an apartment building, we see that this individual would contradict the will of other individuals.
I see what you're trying to do. You're trying to spin it around and make collectivism actually good when you know, by the way, it's not. It's nothing more than a hive mind. Nothing but a cult. Collectivism is nothing but a cult and a hive mind where they all think the same thing. And there is no individual freedom in there whatsoever. You're trying to say, oh, the individual will break these things. Let's say if you're playing loud music in an apartment building, or or you show stepping on somebody's shoes or something like that, they would break that kind of thing as an individual. Rather than you be in a collective, you wouldn't break that kind of thing because there's somebody there to correct you. That seems kind of cultish and kind of scary. You should be the individual and like decide what you're gonna do. Yes, playing loud music and like shooting a gun off in the apartment building is annoying. But as an individual, they have the right to do that. Is it annoying? Yes, but they have the right to do that. And you have the right to tell them to go stop it. And you have the right to go tell the manager, hey, he's doing this and that. As an individual, you have the right to go tell the manager to go do this. Whereas if you were like in a collective or like in a group or something like that, it's like, no, we shouldn't do nothing about it. We should just sit here and do nothing. Just pretend to be happy whether he's playing music at 3 in the morning and I can't get any sleep and I'm wide awake as a daisy. You see how that is kind of cultish and scary? The collective is nothing more than basically a hive mind or a cult. Rather, individualism is the individual thinking for themselves and having their own personal freedoms to do so. In a collective, you wouldn't have any freedom to do that. You do what they tell you to do or else. I'm on board with individualism, not collectivism, where they just limit your thoughts, your freedom, and whatever else in society. Individualism doesn't do that. It gives the power back to the individual and let them contribute to society in their own means, in their own ways, and let them make decisions on their own as an individual.
So in order to protect the rights of these other individuals, we have to take the greater context into account. This means accounting for the collective, not merely looking at the individual. This concept that everyone can simply do whatever they please only makes sense when you look at one individual in a vacuum. Society must take into account everyone. This means that some individuals cannot fully do what they like, as it contradicts with the will of others.
Jesus, man, you're sounding like a cult leader. See, we must not prioritize individual things over the group. We must not let them do that. We shall not let them do that. You see how scary that sounds? You see why people don't want to be on board with collectivism? It sounds like a cult. Once you join, you can't get out. They take control of your mind, like thoughts, whatever. They don't let you have individual freedom because that would damage the other individual freedoms of anyone else in the group. Whether you said you being on your own in individualism and deciding for yourself, rather than having a hive mind do it for you. You sound like a cult leader, and collectivism is starting to sound more scary as the video goes by. It's sounding like a cult. Collectivism is the word for cult. It's a group where basically they just tell you what to do and what to think. And you can't think outside that bubble, or else you're considered a traitor when you have your own individual thoughts, freedom, and whatever else you want to do. Jesus, dude, you're making it sound so scary. What the hell is wrong with you? Collectivism sounds like hell, essentially. It's hell. I don't want to be in that hell, dude. I want to have my own personal freedoms and individualism. Collectivism, hell. Individualism, not hell. I'd rather go with the not hell, dude. I'd rather be not be in a cult than be in a cult for life and say, oh yeah, we're individuals, but yeah, we decide whatever we want to group. You know, take we have a few into account. We have a few is basically where they have to take pills just to be happy. And they cannot be sad whatsoever. They cannot feel any emotions, they cannot be sad whatsoever. That's collectivism. They just give you this little pill, make sure you're happy and think you're an individual, but really you're not allowed to feel anything else outside of that group, or else you can be considered a traitor. That is a scary thought.
In other words, we must structure society in accordance to the collective. Secondly, individuals acting on their own will necessarily form some collective apparatus. A society is something which emerges from the individual, and this society is more than the individual.
Society is more than the individual. What do you think society is made up of, dude? It's made up of individuals that do what they want to do in society and decide to pursue their own interests, meaning they want to decide how they can contribute to society. You're surprised that society is made up of like individuals? I don't think you've been out in the world long enough, dude, but society is made up of individuals. So I don't think you've been outside your collective cult bubble long enough to know that society has individuals and they do what they want to do and they have their own personal freedoms, dude. So just a mental note.
It's emergent. In regards to a marketplace, when individuals act within a market, a certain state of the market will emerge representing the total collective will. Trying to go against these market forces will be disastrous and will personally punish you. A market force is therefore a tool for enforcing collective will. So what's wrong with enforcing other collective wills in the same way? That is, rejecting service to others who refuse the collective. So this
You're making the collective sound more and more like a cult. You're proving my point More and more and more, dude. You see, we cannot go outside the collective. You must not go outside the collective. You're making it sound more like a cult each single time, dude. It's like, oh, we must not let this market take control of us because, that would violate the collective rules. Yeah, you're starting to sound scary, dude. And I don't want to join your collective cult, okay? No, no, thank you.
This concept of individualism only makes sense in a vacuum, which society does not exist under, and a collective will is going to emerge and be enforced no matter how one structures society. It is better to acknowledge the collective nature of society and structure it in a way to liberate the collective as a whole, as only with the liberation of the collective can the individual be truly liberated.
Well, he droned on and on. So, what did we learn today in my electrolytes? We learned that collectivism is nothing but a cult, and this guy was proving my point every single time that it was a cult. He sounds like a cult leader trying to indoctrinate people to not be individuals but be part of a collective hive mind, essentially. So don't try to fall for these kind of things where it's like a collective hive mind. He's trying to spin individualism as nothing more than this terrible thing. Join this collective, and we shall be more than individualism. It's terrible. See, that's how they entrap you in this kind of things. My electrolytes, that's how they entrap you. And if you fall for those little things he's just trying to spin around, you'll easily fall right into like collectivism or something, or even worse like that. So that's gonna be it for me, my electrolytes. My Twitter handle should be right here. I am most active on here. I upload my videos there too. So that's gonna be it for me, my electrolytes. Have a great day, and remember to stay awesome.